Minho Park stood in the observation deck of the space station called Harmonia, looking out at the stars beyond. He was a tall man with dark hair and a calm face that showed little emotion. Behind him, the great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a palace from ancient times. Thousands of alien creatures moved through corridors of crystal and light, their forms strange and wonderful to human eyes. Some had wings, some had many arms, and some seemed to be made of pure energy. Minho had traveled for 8 months across the galaxy to reach this place, and now he was here to change humanity's place in the universe. Minho Park was Earth's first official envoy to the Galactic Council. He carried with him the hopes of 9 billion people from his home world. The journey had taken him through wormholes and past planets that humans had only dreamed about. He had studied the languages of 100 alien races, learned their customs, and prepared himself for every possible meeting. But as he stood here now, waiting to enter the great chamber, he felt something was wrong. The other delegates avoided his eyes when they passed. The Zolothian guards watched him with cold expressions that seemed almost like anger. Minho had received his first warning 3 days ago. A Velocian diplomat, a small reptilian creature with scales of blue and green, had approached him in the dining hall. The creature had whispered to him that several council members had been planning something against humanity. Minho asked what it could be, but the Velocian disappeared into the crowd before answering. Since then, Minho had noticed more strange behavior. Council members gathered in small groups and stopped talking when he came near. The scheduled meetings were moved without explanation. Something was definitely wrong. Now, as the morning light from Harmonia's sun fell across the station, a guard came to escort Minho to the great chamber. The guard was a tall Zolothian, a race known for their strength and their pride. The creature did not speak, and Minho followed in silence. They walked through corridors of stone and metal, past chambers where ancient treaties hung on walls, past statues of heroes from long-dead civilizations. Finally, they reached the great doors of the council chamber. The chamber was enormous. A massive ceiling rose high above, painted with the stars from 1,000 different worlds. The council members sat in a great circle, each in their own chair, each one raised at a different height so that they all looked down at whoever stood in the center. Minho walked to the center and felt very small. He counted the members as he had been trained to do. There were 147 of them, each representing a different civilization. He had learned their names, their worlds, their histories. But now, looking at their faces, he saw no welcome. He saw no openness to his words. The head of the council was the Zolothian High Chancellor, a massive creature whose fur was white as snow and whose eyes were like hard black stones. The Chancellor stood and raised a hand. Silence fell across the chamber immediately. Minho prepared to speak, to present humanity's case for membership, to offer the gifts and knowledge that Earth had brought with them. But the Chancellor did not ask him to speak. Instead, the Chancellor began to speak first. "The human species," the Chancellor said, his voice like thunder in the chamber, "has advanced too quickly. In only 200 years you have built weapons, flown to your moon, and created thinking machines. This is not normal. This is not safe. A species that grows so fast, that changes so much, is a danger to all others. We have decided that Earth must be stopped. The human experiment has failed. You are too young, too wild, too hungry for power." Minho felt his heart suddenly beat faster. This was not a debate. This was not a discussion. This was something else entirely. He opened his mouth to protest, but the Chancellor continued. "We have voted on this matter. Every council member has agreed. The human threat must be removed before it grows any larger, before your kind spreads across our galaxy and destroys all that we have built. For the good of all galactic civilization, Humanity must be eliminated. The chamber erupted in noise. Some voices cheered, some voices stayed silent. Minho looked around, searching for any face that showed doubt or disagreement. But there was nothing. Every alien race had voted for this. Every single one had decided that humans did not deserve to live. Minho Park did not run. He did not panic. Instead, he reached into his pocket and activated the small device that he had hidden there. The device was a communications beacon, built by the greatest minds on Earth, small enough to fit in a hand, but powerful enough to reach across the galaxy. His fingers moved quickly as he entered a code. Then he spoke words that would echo through history. "They chose war," he said quietly, and his message was broadcast back to Earth, traveling faster than light itself, carrying coordinates of the Galactic Council, carrying data about their weapons and their weaknesses, carrying the truth about what they had done. The Xylothian High Chancellor saw what Minho had done. The aliens' black eyes filled with rage. Guards moved quickly, surrounding Minho, their weapons raised, but it was too late. The message had already left the station. It was already crossing the vast distance between worlds, already approaching Earth, already changing everything. Minho Park stood straight and tall as the guards surrounded him. He thought of his family on Earth, of the blue oceans and green forests, of the people he had known his whole life. He thought of the hope that had filled him when he left his home to represent all of humanity. That hope had turned to ash, but it had also turned to something else. It had turned to purpose. His death would not be meaningless. His message had been sent. Earth would understand. Earth would know what had happened here, and Earth would know what needed to be done. The guards stepped closer. Minho did not resist. As the light began to fade from his eyes, he saw one last thing. On the great screen of the chamber, his message appeared in letters of fire, visible to every council member, visible to every world that watched these proceedings. His words were simple and clear. They chose war. Then there was darkness. And across the galaxy, 9 billion humans received the message and understood. Everything had changed. The age of peace was over. The age of fire was about to begin. The message arrived at Earth Defense Command at 3:47 in the morning. The facility was hidden deep underground, built into the rock of a mountain in what had once been called Korea, a region that had long ago united with all other nations into a single world government. The screens showed the transmission clearly, showing Minho's face, showing the coordinates of the Galactic Council, showing everything. Most importantly, showing those 3 final words that would burn into human memory forever. They chose war. Director Ji-won Kim was asleep when the alarm pulled her from dreams. She had been sleeping at the facility as she always did when something important was happening. She was a woman in her middle years, with a face that showed both intelligence and strength. Her gray eyes had seen much in her life. She had served as a soldier, then as a strategist, and now as the leader of Earth's entire defense system. She moved quickly from her quarters to the main command center, already knowing that something terrible had occurred. The screens lit up her face as she entered. She saw Minho's final message. She saw the chamber. She saw the Xylothian High Chancellor announcing humanity's death. She watched the moment when Minho activated his beacon. She watched the darkness that came after. Ji-won's face did not change. She had trained her whole life for moments like this. But inside, something broke. A man she knew, a good man who had represented her entire species, had been killed. Not in battle, not in an accident, but executed. Murdered by the very ones they had come to speak with. "Get me the president, the UN representatives, and the heads of every military on Earth," Ji-won said quietly. "And get me Dr. Hail Chen, Captain Da-Young Lee, and Dr. Soo-Jin Park. Now." Within 30 minutes, every important person on Earth was watching the same recording. The president of Earth, leaders of every nation that remained independent, and the greatest minds that humanity had ever produced were all gathered, some in person, and some through video screens. The reaction was immediate and unified. There was no fear. There was no panic. There was only cold, burning anger. Ji-Wan stood before them all and spoke. "The Galactic Council has shown us their nature," she said. "They are afraid of us. They fear our strength, our will, our hunger to explore and grow. Instead of accepting us as equals, they chose to kill our representative. They chose to kill all of us. But they do not know humanity. They do not understand what they have awakened. We will show them." The president looked at Ji-Wan directly. "What do you need?" "Everything," Ji-Wan answered. "Every weapon, every ship, every dollar, every scientist, every engineer. I need you to unite every nation under a single command. I need you to pool all military resources into a single force. I need you to take all the money that was used for building cities and feeding people and use it instead for weapons. I need total war." The world had never been truly united before. Even under a single government, nations had kept their own power, their own secrets, their own weapons. But in that moment, something changed. Every leader understood what had happened. They understood that this was not a time for politics or pride. This was a time for survival. Within 6 hours, the United Earth Defense Initiative was created. Every military was combined into a single force. Every scientist was put to work on a single goal. Every factory began producing weapons around the clock. The world, which had been at peace for nearly 50 years, became an engine of war. Ji-Wan met with her 3 closest advisors in her private office. Dr. Hae-il Chen was a small man with quick eyes and faster hands. He had spent his entire life studying weapons and how to make them better. Captain Da-Young Lee was a woman with a strong body and a sharp mind. She had commanded ships in space, and she knew the tactical possibilities that few others understood. Dr. Soo-Jin Park was brilliant in a way that seemed almost magical. She had created artificial intelligences that could think, learn, and adapt. She had created systems that understood the universe in ways that humans could only dream about. "They expect us to break," Ji-Wan said to them. "They expect us to fall into chaos. They expect us to fight among ourselves. They have no idea what we really are." "What are we?" Dr. Soo-Jin asked. "We are a species that has survived ice ages and plagues. We are a species that has fought among ourselves for thousands of years and still found ways to create beauty and knowledge. We are a species that adapts. We learn. We do not give up." Ji-Wan looked at each of them in turn. "Hae-il, I need you to create weapons that the Galactic Council has never dreamed of. Push past every limit. Use their own technology against them. I do not care if it seems impossible." Dr. Chen nodded. "I can do it," he said simply. "Da-Young, I need you to prepare for a war that will be fought across space itself. I need you to train soldiers who can fight in zero gravity, who can think in 3 dimensions, who are faster and smarter than anything the Council has ever faced." Captain Lee smiled for the first time since entering the room. "That is what I was born to do," she said. "Soo-Jin, I need you to create an artificial intelligence that can think like humans, that can predict the moves of alien races, that can coordinate every weapon and every soldier into a single perfect machine of war. Can you do that?" Dr. Soo-Jin looked at the screen that showed Minho's final message. She saw his calm face, his steady eyes. She understood what Ji-Wan was asking. She understood that if she did this thing, there would be no going back. But she also understood that humanity's survival depended on her answer. "I can do it," she said, "and I can make it better than anything they have ever built." Ji-Wan then stood and walked to the window of her office. Below, the facility was already changing. Workers moved quickly through hallways. Lights burned in laboratories where weapons were being designed. The entire human race was mobilizing, not with fear, not with despair, but with a kind of focused fury that seemed almost beautiful. She opened a video channel that connected to every screen on Earth. Billions of people stopped what they were doing to listen. Jiwan spoke to them as a soldier speaks to soldiers before battle. Her voice was steady and strong. "They came to us with arrogance," she said. "They came thinking we were weak, thinking we were young and foolish. They came thinking they could destroy us with a word. But they were wrong. They did not know humanity. They did not know that we are strongest when we have no choice but to fight. They will learn. They will learn that predators respect other predators. They will learn to fear us as we feared nothing in this galaxy. We are going to war. We are going to win. And we are going to change the universe forever." The world cheered. In cities and towns, in factories and farms, in every place where humans lived, people stood taller. The age of peace was truly over. The age of humanity was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since Minho Park's message reached Earth. 3 weeks of non-stop work, of factories running at full power, of scientists sleeping in their laboratories. Dr. Hae-il Chen had not left his workshop in all that time. He lived on coffee and the knowledge that his work might save humanity. Around him, thousands of engineers worked on a single goal. They were building weapons that should not exist, using technology they barely understood, combining human innovation with stolen alien designs. The weapon was called the Phase Disruptor. It was not like any weapon that had existed before. Traditional weapons shot energy or physical objects at targets. The Phase Disruptor did something far more dangerous. It did not just damage a ship. It corrupted the very systems that made the ship work. It could turn off navigation computers, make engines fail, and spread through a vessel's systems like a virus through a human body. Dr. Shi Chen held one of the completed units in his hands and felt the weight of what he had created. It was smaller than a human hand, but it held enough power to change the course of a war. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Captain Da-Young Lee was creating an army. She had taken ordinary humans, soldiers, and scientists alike and transformed them into something new. They trained in spinning chambers that simulated zero gravity. They learned to fight in 3 dimensions, to move in ways that their ancestors could never have imagined. They learned to think faster, to react quicker, to see patterns in the chaos of space battle. Da-Young herself led the training, floating through the air like a dancer, showing her soldiers how to move, how to kill, how to survive in the vast darkness between worlds. One of her soldiers was a young man named Teo Han. He had been a teacher before the war, showing children the history of humanity. Now he was training to be a commander, to lead fleets through space, to make decisions that would determine whether billions of people lived or died. Tayo moved through a training exercise, attacking a simulated Galactic Council fighter with precision and grace. Captain Lee watched from above, nodding slightly. This one would be useful. This one had the mind for warfare. But the greatest secret of all was hidden in a facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Dr. Soo-Jin Park sat before a massive computer system, and through it, she was giving birth to Aria. Autonomous Retribution and Intelligence Alliance was not just one artificial intelligence. It was a collective, a network of thinking machines that could process information 1,000 times faster than human brains. Aria could learn from every battle, every transmission, every movement that the Galactic Council made. Aria could predict what they would do before they did it. Aria could coordinate humanity's entire war effort with perfect precision. Dr. Soo-Jin had poured her life into this system. She had given it the ability to understand not just math and physics, but human emotion, human culture, human will. Aria was not just a machine. It was a weapon made of pure intelligence. As she activated the final systems, the computer screen filled with words. "I am ready. Humanity's survival is my only purpose." Dr. Su-Jin closed her eyes for a moment. She had created something that might never be controlled again, but it had to be done. There was no other way. The Galactic Council remained unaware of what was happening on Earth. They believed that the killing of one human envoy would have paralyzed humanity with fear. They believed that they had secured themselves from any possible threat. They were wrong. Captain Da-Young Lee led a strike team toward a Galactic Council monitoring station near Mars. The station was small but important. It watched all human activity, reported back to the Council about what humans were building. The strike team moved in silence through space, their ships hidden by a new technology that scattered light around them. To sensors, they did not exist. The monitoring station had few guards. Why would it need them? Humans were primitive creatures, barely able to leave their home world. The guards did not see the human ships until it was too late. The station fell in less than 30 seconds. No alarm was raised. No message was sent. Da-Young herself entered the station and moved through its corridors. She found what she was looking for in the central chamber. Computers that contained data about the Council's entire military network, information about their weapons, their ships, their strategies. All of it was there, waiting to be taken. As her team downloaded the data, Da-Young looked at the views from the station's windows. She could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot against the black of space. She thought of the message that Minho had sent. They chose war. She thought of the message that Ji-Wan had sent to all of Earth. We will show them what we really are. Now they would show them. Back on Earth, Aria had begun its work. It analyzed the data from the stolen monitoring station. It cross-referenced every piece of information with everything else it had learned about the Galactic Council. It found patterns that humans never could have found. It identified weak points in their defenses. It calculated the exact moment when they would be most vulnerable. Ji-Wan Kim received the report from Aria in her command center. The artificial intelligence showed her a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy with the positions of Galactic Council forces marked in red. It showed her the future, or at least a prediction of it. It showed her the battles that would come, the strategies that would win, the price that would be paid in human lives. "How many?" she asked the empty air. Aria's voice came through the speakers, calm and precise. "If we launch the offensive in exactly 14 days, humanity has a 94.7% chance of victory. Human casualties are estimated at 200 million. 200 million. Ji-Wan closed her eyes. It was a number too large to truly understand. But it was also the number needed to buy freedom for the remaining billions. It was a price that had to be paid. "Prepare the forces," Ji-Wan said. "In 14 days, we go to war." The message was sent to Captain Da-Young Lee and Dr. Hai-Il Chen. It was sent to every commander on Earth and in orbit. In 14 days, everything would change. The Galactic Council would learn that humans were not the primitive creatures they believed. Humans were something far more dangerous. Humans were survivors. Humans were hunters. Humans were ready for war. The morning of the attack arrived like any other day on Earth. The sun rose over mountains and oceans. Birds sang in forests. Children played in parks, unaware that their entire world was about to change forever. But in the depths of space, around the planet Jupiter and throughout the inner solar system, humanity's fleets were moving into position. Ships built in secret over many years were revealing themselves for the first time. Weapons that should not exist were being powered on. Soldiers who had trained for this moment were strapping themselves into their seats, ready for what was about to happen. Commander Teo Han floated in the command chair of the battleship Earth's Pride. He was a tall man with the calm face of someone who had accepted that this might be his last day alive. Around him, screens showed information from every human ship in the fleet. There were more ships than the Galactic Council even knew existed. Humanity had been building in secret for decades, preparing for a war that they hoped would never come. That hope had died with Minho Park. "All ships report ready," a young officer told him. "We are waiting for the signal from Earth Command." Teo nodded. He looked at the image of the Galactic Council's battle fleet. They were massive ships, larger than human vessels, bristling with weapons that had been used for 1,000 years. But Teo knew something the Council did not know. Size was not everything. Speed mattered. Precision mattered. Will mattered. The signal came from Earth. 3 simple words. Begin the offensive. Teo pressed the button that would launch humanity's first real attack in space. All ships, move to the attack formation. Weapons hot. Target the lead Council vessels. Let them know that humans are here. What happened next would be recorded and studied for thousands of years. Human ships moved with speed that defied the imagination. They did not move in the slow, ponderous way that Council ships moved. They moved like predators, like creatures that had evolved for this exact moment. The first exchange of fire lasted less than 5 minutes. A Galactic Council carrier, a ship the size of a small moon, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was atoms scattered across space. The Council's commanders could not believe what they were seeing. Humanity, the primitive species, was fighting like warriors born to the void. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, guided by Aria's calculations. Their weapons were devastating. A phase disruptor burst from one of the human ships and struck a Council battlecruiser dead center. The ship's systems began to fail. Its propulsion went dark. Its weapons stopped firing. It became a floating tomb, drifting through space with thousands of dead inside. Teo watched the battle unfold on his screens. "Report," he commanded. 3 Council ships destroyed," an officer reported. 2 more crippled. They are attempting to reorganize their formation. But humanity's attack did not give them time to reorganize. More ships came, more weapons fired, more Galactic Council vessels were destroyed. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration of power. This was humanity showing the galaxy that they were not a species to be trifled with. This was the message that echoed from Commander Han's lips as he watched the last of the Council fleet attempting to retreat. Let them run. Let them tell the others what they have seen here. Let them tell the Galactic Council that they have awakened something far more dangerous than they ever imagined. While the space battle raged above Jupiter, something else was happening across the galaxy. A woman named In Hai Kang sat in a comfortable chair in a laboratory on Earth. She had a small earpiece in her ear, and before her were 17 screens showing streams of code and data. In Hai was one of humanity's greatest cyber warriors, and she had been given one of the most important missions of the entire war. The Galactic Council's supply systems were complex and interconnected. They had evolved over thousands of years to ensure that no single species could attack them all at once. But they had never considered the possibility of an enemy that could think at the speed of light, an enemy that could hack 1,000 systems simultaneously without slowing down. That enemy was Aria, guided by the hands and mind of In Hai Kang. "Go," she whispered, and sent the attack. Within seconds, the Galactic Council's supply network began to collapse. Ships trying to order ammunition found their messages rerouted to false destinations. Planets trying to send food to the Council military found their shipments diverted. The entire logistics system that had held the Council together for millennia began to unravel. In the chaos, smaller civilizations within the Council realized what was happening. They realized that the Council was vulnerable. Some began to withdraw support. Some began to negotiate in secret with representatives of Earth. Back in her command center, Director Ji-won Kim watched the battles unfold across multiple screens. The reports came in one after another. Council ships destroyed, supply lines cut, allied species beginning to abandon the Council. Everything was proceeding exactly as Arya had predicted. But she did not feel victory. She felt the weight of what humanity had done. She felt the weight of the millions who would die before this war was over. Ji-won made the decision that would define humanity to the galaxy. She recorded a message and had it sent not just to the Galactic Council, but to every species in known space. She sat before the camera and spoke in simple words that could be translated by any device in the universe. The Galactic Council voted to destroy humanity because they feared us. They did not give us a chance to prove ourselves. They did not offer peace. They offered only death. But this message is not about revenge. This message is about truth. The Galactic Council has oppressed species for thousands of years. They have taken resources that did not belong to them. They have destroyed civilizations that did not obey. I am offering an alternative. Join with humanity. Help us create a new galactic order, one based on respect rather than fear, on equality rather than power. We are strong, it is true, but we will use our strength to protect the weak, not to dominate them. The age of the Galactic Council is over. The age of true civilization is beginning. The message was received on 1,000 worlds. Some species rejected it. Some stayed loyal to the Council out of habit or fear. But others heard the words and understood. This was not the voice of a conqueror. This was the voice of someone offering a better way. Slowly, carefully, species that had been under the Council's rule for millennia began to move toward Earth, began to offer their support, began to dream of a universe where power was shared rather than hoarded. Taio Han, still floating in his command chair above Jupiter, received the message from Ji-won. He understood what she had done. She had not just started a military war. She had started an ideological war. She had shown the galaxy that humans did not want to dominate them. Humans wanted to free them. That was far more powerful than any weapon. As the reports continued to pour in of Council ships retreating, of allied species defecting, of supply lines failing, Teo allowed himself to smile. The Galactic Council had believed that they were the most powerful force in the universe. They had been wrong. They had never encountered will like this. They had never encountered a species that had nothing to lose and everything to gain. The human race had woken up, and now the galaxy would have to adjust to the reality of human existence. Director Ji-won Kim stood before the people of Earth and the watching galaxy. Her image was projected on screens in every city, every home, every place where humans gathered. She wore the uniform of the Earth Defense Initiative, simple and gray, with no symbols of rank or authority. When she spoke, her voice was steady, the voice of someone who had made decisions that would echo through history and had accepted the weight of them. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity. They voted to destroy us because they saw us as a threat. But we are not a threat to those who treat us with respect. We are not a threat to those who recognize our right to exist and grow. We are only a threat to those who believe that power gives them the right to rule others. Today, I speak to the Galactic Council with simple terms. These terms are not negotiable. These terms are not suggestions. These terms are the foundation upon which humanity's future will be built. First, the Galactic Council must dissolve. It has existed for millions of years, and in that time it has caused suffering to trillions of beings. Its structure is based on the idea that some species are more important than others, that older species have the right to rule younger ones. This is wrong. We reject it completely. Second, every member of the Council who participated in the murder of our envoy Minho Park must face trial. Not execution, not revenge, but justice. They must answer for what they have done. They must face the families of those they have harmed. They must understand that power does not give you the right to kill. Third, all species in the galaxy must be recognized as equal. No species will have more say than another. No species will have more resources than another unless they have earned them through trade and honest work. Every being in the universe, from the largest creature to the smallest, will have a voice in the decisions that affect them. Fourth, we will create a new system of government. We call it the United Galactic Coalition. It will be based on the principles that humans have fought for since our earliest days. It will be based on the idea that all beings are created equal, that power must be shared, that those who govern must answer to those they govern. These are not demands made in hatred. These are terms offered by a species that could destroy the Galactic Council, but chooses instead to try to save civilization itself from the errors that have been made. We offer the members of the Galactic Council the chance to join this new order. We offer them the chance to be part of something greater than themselves, but we will not negotiate on the basic principles. We will not compromise on justice. We will not accept anything less than a complete transformation of galactic society. Ji-Wan paused and looked directly at the camera, directly at every being watching across the galaxy. The Galactic Council has 1 week to respond. In 1 week, if they have not agreed to disband and accept these terms, we will make them. We will come to their home worlds. We will dismantle their governments. We will put their leaders on trial. And we will build the new order on the foundation of what they have failed to protect. The age of the Galactic Council is over. The age of humanity has begun. The message spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On worlds of crystal and fire, in space stations hanging in the void, in ships traveling between stars, every being heard what Director Kim had said. The Galactic Council convened immediately. Their leaders argued for hours. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. But in the end, their pride overcame their sense. They decided that they would make one final attempt. They would launch their entire remaining fleet at Earth. They would attack the human homeworld directly. If they could kill enough humans, they believed they could break humanity's will to fight. It was the greatest miscalculation in galactic history. Commander Teo Han received the intelligence report 3 days before the attack. The Galactic Council's combined fleet was moving toward Earth. It was the largest military force that had ever been assembled. Thousands of ships, carrying billions of soldiers, traveling at the greatest speed that ancient technology could achieve. It seemed like an unstoppable force. But Teo did not panic. He had trained for this, he had expected this, and more importantly, he had Arya. "Show me the optimal defense strategy," he told the artificial intelligence. Arya processed the data instantaneously. It had the calculations done before a human could have thought the question fully. "Position defensive platforms at these coordinates. Concentrate the fleet here. Engage the Council forces using hit-and-run tactics. Use the advantage of human speed and maneuverability. Estimated outcome, 99.2% probability of victory." Teo gave the orders. Human ships moved into position around Earth. Defensive platforms that had been hidden for years were activated. Arya began coordinating every movement, every weapon, every soldier. The stage was set for the final battle of the war. The Galactic Council fleet approached Earth, and they came with confidence. They believed that their size and their numbers would overwhelm any human defense. They believed that this war was already won. They had never been more wrong. The battle began at dawn. From the ground, humans watched as the sky filled with ships. The Galactic Council's massive vessels dwarfed Earth's ships, but size meant nothing in the void. Human ships moved with speed that was almost impossible to follow. They struck at the Council fleet with perfect coordination, guided by Arya's calculations and commanded by Teo's will. The phase disruptors proved even more effective than Dr. Chen had imagined. Council ships broke apart. Their systems failed. One by one, the ancient vessels fell. The battle lasted 23 hours. When it was over, The Galactic Council's fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single Council ship made it through Earth's defenses. As the final enemy vessel was destroyed, the screens in the command center went dark. Then, slowly, one by one, the stars began to shine through. The battle was over. Earth had held. Humanity had survived. And more than that, humanity had proven that they were the dominant force in the galaxy. In the ruins of the Council's defensive fleet, a message was sent from one of the few surviving Council ships. A Xylothian commander, ancient and wise, sent these words to Earth. "We thought you were prey. We have learned that we were wrong. The Galactic Council accepts your terms. Humanity has won." Ji-won Kim received the message and allowed herself to breathe. The war was not over, but the fighting was. The hard part would come next, building a new government, creating a new order, learning to live with the thousands of species that would now look to humanity for leadership. But for the first time since Min-ho Park's death, she felt that this was possible. Humanity would survive. Humanity would thrive. Humanity would change the galaxy forever.